Hello, and welcome to today's webinar, Operationalizing AI with RapidMiner and Talent. Just a quick thanks to the members of the Talent and RapidMiner communities who've joined us today, as well as newcomers. I'm Jeff Bashaw, and I'll be your host. I run channels here at RapidMiner. I'm joined by my colleague, Bhupendra Patel, who runs all solutions. We're thrilled today to have Mark Balkanende from Talent with us as well. He's in technical product marketing to support the event. Just 3 points of order before we dive in. First, today's webinar is being recorded, and you will receive an email in the next 1 or 2 business days with the link to the on-demand version. Feel free to share that with any colleagues that weren't able to attend today. Secondly, if you're having any AV issues with today's broadcast, your best bet is to log out and log back in, as this resolves the situation in most cases. And third, we are going to have a Q&A portion at the end of this event. So if you have questions as we go, feel free to enter them into the questions panel on the right side of the screen. With that, we're ready to dive in. A quick look at our agenda today. I'll have a few words on RapidMiner, and then I'll frame 2 kind of time-worn data scientist dilemmas and how collaborating with the data engineer can work to solve those. A quick peek at our partnership with Talent and the integration. And then I'll pass the ball to Mark, who'll cover Talent, and then frame the flow of a collaborative demo that he and VP will run for us. We'll come back to me then with a quick case study, and then we'll wrap up and adjourn with your questions. The best performing companies in the world are winning with AI. And it's not just the FANG stocks, Netflix, Amazon, Facebook, and Google. Great companies with great brands that we all know and love, like Dominos Pizza, have undertaken significant digital transformations and are seeing the appreciation in their stock growth accordingly. I would just point out here that Dominos is a client of both RapidMiner and Talent. Just a few quick words on RapidMiner, the world's #1 data science platform. Over 500,000 community members, over 30,000 global organizations, over 1,000 universities, and over 350 global clients. We've been a Gartner leader in the Magic Quadrant for data science and machine learning platforms for 6 years running, and in the last 2 years leading the Forrester Wave on predictive analytics and machine learning. If you're familiar with the digital watering holes that serve the data science community, you know Katie Nuggets, and if you're there, you know that we're the #1 open source platform for data mining and analytics 6 years running. And G2 Crowd consistently rates us highest at ease of use. I'd now just call your attention to some of the logos of great companies that RapidMiner counts as global clients, and we're proud to serve them. As machine learning and artificial intelligence becomes more of a central fixture in the analytics factory, some old ways are going to need to change, and we're going to need a new paradigm. A RapidMiner way, a RapidMiner paradigm, if you will, which is characterized by lightning fast business impact of data science projects, right? An environment that's got depth for data scientists, but is simplified and in many cases automated for everyone else. No black boxes. Any model that RapidMiner automatically generates can be cracked open, interrogated, collaborated upon, right? Truly understood before it's put in the path of the business in a high-value use case. It's a unified collaboration platform, which I'll touch on briefly in the next slide. And like Talent, we're open source and extensible, and we at companies believe that's an important element to success. Again, a unified platform that moves the needle for analytics teams, from data prep through machine learning, all the way out through model deployment. You can see the many personas that we serve with our platform, but today we're going to focus on 2, the data engineer and the data scientist, and how they can collaborate, right? So let's talk about the first dilemma faced by data scientists. And this is actually a Ventana research study that was surveying enterprise clients who were citing machine learning challenges. And the #1 is accessing and preparing data, right? A data science that works for RapidMiner told me that without clean data, she's just another source of noise. The second dilemma for the data scientist is what we call the final mile dilemma. And this is Gartner from 2018. But over 50% of data science projects are never fully deployed. Great models that can impact the business don't see the light of day or their day in the sun, because data scientists have difficulty deploying them into business processes and applications where the rubber meets the road. So a world now where analytics teams can collaborate and operationalize data pipelines with machine learning in a common governed platform across the lifecycle. Prototype, test, production with access control and versioning. right? Two personas truly collaborating in the analytics factory. And in terms of innovation, what we wanted to introduce today and some of the work that we're doing together as companies is embedding machine learning right inside of data pipelines, really kind of trying to tackle that final mile problem I just described. First, the data engineer will go ahead and build a Talend flow, which includes a connector to RapidMiner. The data scientist will collaborate with the data engineer on these data prep steps. But then as Talend is moving the data, it will make a service call to RapidMiner, and RapidMiner will get the data from the Talend node, load the process in the model, execute the process in the model, and deliver that enriched data back to the next node. Talend then can ship it out to a business system for consumption, right? This is a very simple design pattern that is fast, but we also feel is quite durable. And how neat to have the flow of data right into the data warehouse where analysts can, take a look at it and take action, right, with the machine learning already on board. Just quickly, the consensus on collaboration. This is Ventana from 2018 again. Most of the survey respondents considered, the collaboration between data scientists and data engineers important, over 80%. Just a few words on our partnership. Talend and RapidMiner have a technology and innovation alliance. We're two category-leading open source companies with open source web integrations, and we've got more to come, but we're excited to share with you what we have today. With that, I'm going to hand the ball to Mark. He's going to make a few remarks on Talend and frame the collaborative demo that he and BP will run. Mark, over to you.
Did everything but unmute. All right, thanks, Jeff. looks like I'm ready to go now. So Talend at a glance. Definitely going to talk a little bit about Talend, and then we're going to dive right into the demo. So Talend is a leader in data integration and integrity, as well as big data. So a little bit about Talend. We're over 1,000 employees now, 1,100 employees, with highly recognized as a leader in both Gartner and Forrester. Gartner Magic Quadrant for data integration and data quality, and Forrester big data and data quality. We're 100% growth in our cloud products. And I'll show you a little bit about our cloud products today. Revenue continues to just grow massively every year, and we have over 3,000 customers today. And just a glance at our customers, as RapidMiner, we're across many different industries and verticals, some very well-known names. We're in 88 of the top Fortune 100 companies are Talend today. So a very impressive list of customers and customer stories that you can find that are using Talend today for many different use cases out there. And the data value chain is really what Talend's mission is about. So it's about collecting the data, being able to collect data from all sources, be able to build the governance around the data, govern that data that's coming in and how it's coming in, and then transform and share that data. And it's really about the speed and trust at scale that gets to that raw data that you're pulling in into the experiences and insights. And according to Gartner, 60% of our customers' time or enterprise users' time from the data engineer and data scientist is collecting that data or finding the data or looking for the data. And with Talend, we really work hard to provide tools and platforms that allow everybody in the organization to see the data and trust the data that they're using. And we're going to talk a little bit today, in the use case, we're going to talk about industrializing machine learning and AI with Talend and RapidMiner. And again, it's about taking that raw data, bringing it into the pipeline, and doesn't matter what user or what persona, like Jeff said, we have data engineer personas or integration specialists, data scientists. We provide tools for data stewards to resolve data issues in the process. And everywhere from citizen integrators, we have great tools like our Stitch Data Loader and our new introduced Pipeline Designer that gives even easy web-based tools for people to ingest and transform data on any platform. And really at work across all the different platforms that are out there. With Spark and Python, we support Databricks and Cubel from a advanced analytics platform, all with RapidMiner doing machine learning for us. And it's really building that data value chain and optimizing that machine learning. So really being able to make it easy to deploy and easy to use. Just like Jeff was saying, we're working on the pipeline process of getting that data in and out of your machine learning operations. And scaling intelligent insights and experiences is really, as Jeff talked about, and just reiterate, we're going to show you in the demo today the Talent Studio, which is one of our tools for data integrations. It's the one that we use for the much more complex examples like we have today, where we're going to do an example on call customer churn data and predict when they're going to churn using RapidMiner. And with the RapidMiner server, which BP will show you, once the model's created and been published, it creates APIs, and we'll show you briefly with Talent API services how you can make your application smarter, build APIs quickly, deploy and test them, all with the entire Talent and RapidMiner platform tied together. So the demo, as we said, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to collect call records, and I'm going to show you with Talent Studio as well as Talent Cloud how you can build the integrations with our Studio-based environment. It's Eclipse-based environment. We're going to get those different records of drop rates, loyalty flags, there's different sources, and combine them all into one table within Snowflake, where then BP will then take the data. He can do some massaging and doing some preparation, and then try different models, train different models, and see the best final results, and then publish that out for consumption. Whoops, too many clicks. And with a REST endpoint from RapidMiner, and we'll show how Talent's API designer and tester really helps you accelerate once you have those endpoints from RapidMiner server to start embedding those in applications. So being able to share and use those insights much faster and much quicker. So with that, I'm going to jump into the Talent Studio. All right. So for those that haven't seen, this is the Talent development environment that you're seeing on the screen, where we provide a graphical design environment for you to do some development. So just walk through this quickly. Over on the left-hand side is what we call the repository, and I'm using a project that's out on a Git repository in our Talent environment and through the Talent Cloud, so I can share projects and integration designs with my teammates. And I have different types of jobs that are available to me. I have what's called standard jobs that can run really on any type of Java platform where you can run our small agent. We also have big data batch jobs where we can provide Spark matching or Spark-based processing, and then big data streaming, which is also Spark, but Spark streaming processes using big data environments. And below, we can have different metadata stored about different database connections that we may use, or files. In this case, I'm using some files with some Snowflake database connections. And over on the far right is what we call our palette. These are our hundreds of components that we provide. Some are for connections to different systems like business intelligence and cloud platforms. Others are for such as data quality, processing, doing different standardization and masking and shuffling and things like that. And these you just drag onto the palette, or you can do a text search as you design and develop. It's very quick and easy. And as you drag and drop the components on the screen, you start building your integration. So here, I'm pulling a file off S3 and reading the file and writing it into Snowflake. I'm doing some transformations, some very simple ones within what's called a T-map. And you can see the configuration of the components below. What is the user? What is the table? How do I want to interact with the table? And things like that. And the next flow is just doing a lookup for the customer detail to make sure I know all the international details. And I'm providing that into another table called customer details. Now BP, for him, he needs the data combined. So I have a second job that's taking the two different data sets, the call data records and the customer information, and I'm joining it on into a third table that ultimately, BP, you're going to use as the data scientist. So again, I'm acting as the data engineer and providing some customer data for BP in this example, and he's going to help write out those examples. So now that I have these, this particular process, by the way, is what is called ELT, or push down onto Snowflake. All of this runs and generates SQL that's then run on our Snowflake instance. So instead of running it through the studio, I've published it up to Talent Cloud, which is a fully hosted environment. And I've already logged in, and I'm in what's called the Management Console. And I want to drill in and run those two jobs together. So I've created what's called an execution plan. So I'm going to go to my plans in my production environment, and I'm going to find the one that says process call records, and I'm going to go ahead and run this. So again, Talent Cloud is a fully hosted management iPaaS environment for you. So we manage all the management processes, so the jobs that you build and develop, you can publish up to the cloud, and we give you different ways of running these processes. If it's not a process that requires a big data environment or advanced analytics environment like Databricks or Cubal or Cloudera, you would then run it on what's called a remote engine if you want to run it inside of your environment. Or we also host cloud engines where you can run things, which this happens to be running because I don't have a lot of security concerns. So what I've done is created an execution plan of the two jobs that you saw in my studio. First, to load the data into my cloud environment, and then into my Snowflake, and then use the ELT pushdown to combine the records together. And this data is, the jobs I've already run, both of them ran successful, and I can dig into the logs, view the logs from here, drill into the actual jobs themselves. But ultimately, I want to make sure that we provide the right data to BP. And so here is the data that BP, as a data scientist, I'm going to hand this over to you now so you can take over and show us how you can help predict the customer churn. So with that, I will actually do that for you quick. All right, over to you, BP.
Excellent. Thank you, Mark. And so far, obviously, Mark has done the heavy lifting in terms of getting me access to the data. I really then have to focus on just building the models, right? He's made sure that the data is join, union, or whatever he need to do to create a profile for me to start working with. This is exactly the data set that Mark was showing earlier. I'm connected to the same Snowflake instance that Mark is connected to, so pretty much that's the handoff we did at this point. And to get started off, I'm going to quickly right-click on the table here and switch to AutoModel. Some of you may be familiar with this part of our product, but quickly to highlight what's going on here. What RapidMiner is doing is showing me the raw data. Obviously, I pulled this from the Snowflake instance that Mark has provided the data into. And the problem I'm trying to solve today is a prediction problem. So I'm selecting, obviously, prediction here, and the system is asking me to figure out which column I want to focus on. So you'll notice as I'm immediately able to jump into my data science problem rather than having to worry about the data acquisition and wrangling and all that. But as I've selected a column, I hit next here. At this point, I can see the distribution of the loyals versus churns. As I can expect, the churners are a smaller fraction of our data set. Pretty much, validates my hypothesis here. I click next here. Now, what RapidMiner is doing at this particular screen is showing me the quality of the data that Mark has prepared for me. And again, nothing wrong with what Mark did, but generally showing me if there's any statistical trends or patterns in this data. It will highlight things like if there is correlation between what you're trying to predict and a specific column. Are things looking like IDs, or are they stable values or missing values and so on, right? And these are going to be important to understand if a certain column should be included or not. But RapidMiner actually makes it even further easy by quickly giving you a red, orange, green indicator. From my business knowledge, I understand that having an international plan or maybe not having it can affect my bills, especially I'm making international calls. And maybe it's a good factor to consider for churn cases. Maybe we are losing customers when they don't have an international plan, but they start making international calls. So I'm definitely going to override the system's recommendation here and say include this. On the other side, customer phone number. Most of the times, obviously, this will and should not have any predictive power. So I'll just leave it out of the equation for now. On the next screen here, what RapidMiner is offering me is a selection of particular algorithms that I can try on the data. And you'll notice it kind of picks up algorithms from a variety of families of algorithms. So it's not like just 100 variations of a decision tree, but different types of algorithms, different types of techniques are applied on the data set. And beyond that, it actually also does a few more additional things for us. For example, I can ask it to extract information from the date. So sometimes it might be important to see how long has it been a customer. So rather than just using the start date, I want to calculate automatically the date between the time between now and the start date, or day of the week, month of the year, and those kind of things. You may or may not have a lot of textual data. In this particular case, I don't have any, but if I had, let's say, customer call center records or support tickets, that's textual information. That's a lot of rich information, but obviously many times that gets ignored across machine learning problems. Versus with RapidMiner, I could simply say extract test information, and RapidMiner will start leveraging any textual column that's in that input data set. Again, I don't have any for now, so I'm going to leave it to off. Along with that, what Mark prepared for me had about 18, 19 different columns. In many situations, I might have hundreds of columns. RapidMiner will allow us to automatically find the right combination of columns. And in fact, if I switch over to automatic feature generation, it will also automatically generate new columns for me. A quick example could be, I may have a total bill, and I may have the total number of calls. Those two columns by themselves are meaningful, but if I do something like divide the number of dollars paid per month by the average number of calls per month, I can get what the customer is spending per call. And that is a meaningful number in the telecom world to understand if a particular customer does a lot of long calls or short calls, and those kind of patterns might help the model learn faster or better. With this one switch, RapidMiner will automatically find those relationships between columns using various mathematical expressions. And overall, this could all result in hundreds and hundreds of combinations of columns, and feature selection will make sure you don't get an overwhelming model here. For now, I'll just leave it to no and hit next. In this particular screen, all I have to simply decide is, hey, do I want to run this locally or run this on a server? Especially as your scale of problems grows, you might want to run things on the RapidMiner server so that you can leverage the distributed computing power of our server. But for now, I'm going to just say run locally and hit next here. And the system is going to start building models for me here. And in the interest of time, I'll switch over to something that's ready. Generally, the models are going to be built in a few seconds, as you see on the runtime here. But this is what the output looks like. At the end of all the iterations and all the training exercises, RapidMiner has highlighted the best models so far. And overall, I can then drill down into models in terms of accuracy, classification error, precision, recall, F measure, whatever, right? And you'll notice now I'm still the data scientist mode. I'm still not talking about putting this model in production. And that is where a lot of problems happen, right? I am able to find models with really great accuracy here. I want to make sure I'm picking the right model for my business. So I can drill down further. I can look at individual models. I can look at their performance. I can look at the lift measures, but I can also collaborate with my business to work in predictions tab here to kind of show what the output looks like on the test data set, and not just the output, but the reasons behind the prediction. You'll notice we color code through a shade of red to green, showing what is influential and not influential in the prediction of what the output is here. But I can also do simulations on the model. For example, if I switch over to the simulator here, with this set of inputs that's on the left, my model, or at least this naive-based model, predicts 97% chance of this particular combination is a loyal. It will also show you the highlight of which factors are influencing. So I can quickly say, hey, let's switch to yes. And you'll notice my likelihood of loyal actually just dropped. I can obviously tweak other parameters and validate if my model is behaving the right way. And obviously, this is something I will do in collaboration with my business guys. They understand the factors. They can, run a hypothesis on this and so on. At the end of the day, looking at all the various models, the various performance measures and whatnot, as a data scientist, I should be able to pick the right model to deploy. Now, keep the problem in mind here. What we really wanted to do was help the business put this model in production. Finding the best model is just one part of this journey. I want to take this further and actually deploy this model. Now, one of the things RapidMiner does for you as it goes through AutoModel, it saves those models in a location that you prefer. So you'll notice I have actually saved all the models and all the iterations that I've built so far. I can simply take one of the models, let's say the decision tree model, and deploy this. And a deployment process looks something like this. In this case, I'm going to deploy my gradient boosted tree model. This is my input data set. I'm going to apply the model and then cleaning up a few names, etc., so that I can push it back to my Snowflake, which is my operational data store. So I have so far built a workflow that takes the model that I decided, the gradient boosted tree, and have designed a workflow that can take some input and then place the output of that back into the output queue. Now, once we have built this workflow, this is where the data scientist says, hey, I've built the model, I've selected the right model along with the business, and Mark, please go ahead and deploy this for me. Now, the beauty of the integration between RapidMiner and Talend is, we can take this solution as you see here and make it available as a REST endpoint for Mark to consume. And it will look something as simple as this. I have the workflow saved here. I will simply right click and hit browse. And that basically opens up the workflow in the RapidMiner server interface. On the very bottom right corner, you notice there's an option that says export as a web service. I simply click on that, and if I have to pass certain parameters on the URL, I could do that. But in this case, we're going to pass the data points as a request party. And that's about it. If I hit submit here, that will create an endpoint for me. And the endpoint will look something like this. I will have a URL that I can take. So far, I have built a model. I have made that model available as a web endpoint. But we're still not yet in a place where it is operationalized, right? I mean, having an endpoint on one side is useless until somebody starts consuming. And that is where our first component comes into play of what we're doing with Talend here. What we have jointly built as a partnership here is this new component in Talend. So remember, Mark mentioned about Palette earlier, right? Palette allows you to connect to various systems, data sources, data outputs, allows you to do a bunch of data transformations and so on. We are now introducing a new component, as we call it here, that allows us to now start communicating between Talend and RapidMiner server. The URL of the model that we just deployed is just simply pasted here. Obviously, RapidMiner will secure everything, so you'll need to provide a username password. And depending on the data volumes, you can ask the system to automatically figure out a batch size, or you can provide a number. And what does this do for us? I'm going to quickly run a sample here. Imagine the data is coming in from Snowflake. I want to score that data in the model that we just deployed, and then I want to show you the output here. I'll simply hit run here quickly. The Talend job that we just built here is compiling, and as it's deployed, this is what the output looks like. And again, I'm logging this here to show you the quick immediate effect of this. But what really is happening here, you'll notice each of my rows have 3 or 4 new columns. It's actually telling me the prediction and the confidence of the predictions. Now, obviously, in this case, I'm just logging it, but in real world, this will be going back into my Snowflake system or whatever the next operational system has to be. But literally within a matter of few clicks, I converted a RapidMiner model to a web service. And then because I choose Talend for my deployments and my ETL workflows, I can take this model and place it into the Talend workflows that we saw here. However, obviously, the journey between the endpoint that we created and the consumption that is happening in this workflow needs to be more smoother. And for that, we actually use a little bit more of Talend's help here. To discuss more of that, I'll actually switch over to Mark to present several other components of the Talend ecosystem that we used here. So Mark, back to you.
Yeah, thanks, BP. Yeah, so what you're seeing right now is what we call the API designer. So another way, which BP was showing you how a great way with the new component for RapidMiner to integrate at a batch level within the Talent Studio and deploy it out. Another way would be to actually take that API and build out API specifications. And with Talent's cloud platform, we give you a way with the what's called the API designer to start building out API specifications. And with the Talent platform, you can implement that. Or in this case, we're just going to be calling the API itself through the API tester. And that's really all we need to do. But this helps us define what the API should look like, the response, the request, and specifications around those in AOS 3 version. Sorry, that's hard to say. And we can start integrating this into applications within our enterprise much faster and easier. So we've defined this. Now we want to test it. So BP, if you want to just click on the test API. And because it's a shared repository between the designer and the tester, it takes the information that I provide for the endpoint and puts it right into a test method for me. It has the JSON that I defined as the body. And once, all I have to do is hit send, as long as I don't need any authentication, which we didn't set up for the demo. And once I hit send, it's going to send out that request, and I can start seeing the results immediately. How the API works, I can test it, and now we can start embedding these analytics and the results of our predictions right into applications, such as your call center application and things like that. So just another way of Talent helping you and RapidMiner bring trust and speed to your data and share it even that much faster by helping you build out the full end-to-end cycle. So thanks, BP.
Excellent. Thank you, Mark. With that, I'll bring it back to Jeff, who would summarize our demo for the day.
Thank you, BP. As we know, customer analytics are near and dear. We'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. But it's important to note that any subscription business, whether you're a telco or something else, a 1% impact on churn can get quite meaningful quickly. So we see AI case studies everywhere in terms of high value cases across industries. We called out sort of Dominos on the front end, right? But we see them in manufacturing and retail like Dominos, healthcare, government, transport, spin services. And it's a pretty even mix for us. What we do see is that these projects across these industries really fall into three main lanes. The customer analytics around driving revenue, which I just mentioned. The operational analytics around reducing costs, and that can be in all manner of projects. And then risk analytics as well around avoiding risks. And that can be things like, finding outliers to detect fraud and so forth. But here's a case study with RapidMiner and Talent in a steel manufacturer. There are several factors that affect the yield of high quality steel, right? And by placing sensors at different stages in the manufacturing process, the manufacturer can capture data, right, around process, quality, and yield. But when you apply RapidMiner, predictive models to that data, now the manufacturer can make, inline decisions, right, on adjusting downstream production or even interrupting a process that would not yield desired results at a later stage based on the chemistries the sensor is indicating, right? And then as we've talked about, using Talend, we can now go ahead and put this right into an operationalized mode in a business workflow, right? So this can just become something that, it is really embedding machine learning right in the flow of the data, right? And right in the flow of the metal. Now it's time to wrap up and QA. So the joint value proposition and the call to action. In terms of RapidMiner and Talent, we talked about improving collaboration between data scientists and data engineers and tackling those two dilemmas that we called out around data access and the model deployment operationalization. But the end game is really about rapidly developing and deploying machine learning models to drive economic impact and digital transformation in your business, right? In terms of call to action, please download RapidMiner products and get started. They're great. Likewise, please get to Talent and download their products. They're great. And we would love to hear from you. Contact us, right, for more information. That's Mark and BP and me. So there's our contact info with our emails. Just a quick reminder, today's webinar is being recorded. So you will receive an email with a link to the on-demand version in the next 1 or 2 business days. And with that, I think we're going to move to some of your questions. What we'll do in this question and answer period is alternate between Mark and Bhupendra picking the questions. So Mark, over to you.
Yeah, we have lots of good questions in the Q&A already, so we'll get started. I'm going to take the first easy one for Talent. Question, is Talent a ETL tool or a database? So we are definitely not a database company at all. We are a data management and data governance and cloud company. So yes, you can do ETL, ELT, and all types of processing real-time and streaming and batch with Talent. So, and again, we're fully hosted in the cloud. We provide support for all of the major cloud vendors, Azure, AWS, Google, and so on. So we are definitely a data management cloud platform tool. So, so that's my first one. BP, you're up next.
Excellent. I'll take another easy one for RapidMiner. The question is, can only AutoModel built models be deployed, or can we deploy any other sort of models also? So the short answer is you can deploy any model using the mechanism. That could be a RapidMiner model that is built using a regular process, AutoModel. You can also build models using R, Python, or any other language of your choice, and they can be still deployed as web services and then integrated with Talent, as you saw in the webinar today. Hopefully that answers your question. Back to you, Mark.
All right. So another one is Talent Cloud Management Console available in the open source free part of Talent? It is not. I hate to say it, but it is a hosted service provided by Talent for the Management Console and Talent Cloud itself. So you take the processes and you deploy them out to Talent Cloud. So that is a subscription service that we provide from Talent.
Excellent.
Up to you.
Excellent. I'll take the next question for RapidMiner. The question is, once a model has been deployed, how do you monitor it on a regular basis? So for today's webinar, we focused purely on the integration part, where we showed how you can deploy models and actually consume them in your enterprise ETL workflows powered by Talent. Obviously, as a platform, RapidMiner solves every problem along the data science project lifecycle. So we do definitely have model monitoring and model tracking tools. They can be set up for alerting, they can be set up for retraining, and a bunch of other outputs. We will definitely reach out to you in a private thread and probably deep dive, but again, check out rapidminers.com resource pages and you'll find some existing examples around that. Thank you. Hopefully that answered your question. Back to you, Mark.
Sure. So does Talent Cloud run on Azure or AWS? Is it integrated within an existing Azure AWS subscription? So Talent Cloud today runs on AWS, but in the very near future, in the second part of this year, hopefully the summer or fall, we will be announcing that it will also be available running on Azure. As far as being part of a marketplace subscription from Azure or AWS, we're also working on parts of that coming out this year within what's called Pipeline Designer, one of our data integration tools. So more to come on Azure and on the subscription base through that. So, but today it is fully available in AWS in 4 different major regions, and Azure is coming very soon. So back to you, BP.
Excellent. I'm going to actually combine a couple of questions here. Somebody asked, can I keep enhancing the models that were built behind the scenes? And the short answer is yes. Remember, we created a deployment as a web service that was powered by a RapidMiner process. You will have to, obviously just change the model or update the model that has been referred in that process. But the rest of the downstream process, which is the web service, the workflows, the integration will continue to work. So in fact, the way the integration works now, your data scientists can keep continuing and improving the models, and absolutely nothing needs to change on the web service or the integration with Talent. Both of these enterprise tools will continue to work through the changes. Another follow-up question on that was, can we allow the user to select which model to use? Absolutely yes. In this particular context, as a data scientist, I leaped forward and said, I'm going to use the gradient boosted tree. But let's say you wanted to do an A/B testing, or you're not sure which models to use. Both of those models could be exposed via the same process as a parameter. And when calling from Talent, we could have passed, parameter A, parameter B, or model ID, or something of that nature to pick one of the models dynamically. So in fact, between the 2 platforms together, you can set up a very, very complex enterprise-grade model execution framework that allows you to not only retrain, but also parameterize which models are used. Hopefully that answers the couple of questions I had. Back to you, Mark.
Excellent. Just reading through which one's the next good one for Talent. There's one about, does RapidMiner integrate with Talent Data Fabric solution components? Any RapidMiner particular offering like AutoML compatible with Talent? So a little bit for both of us, I think, BP. So yes, what BP showed you was showing you how we're integrating the components into the Talent Data Fabric and being able to run the models once they're built and ready to get the outputs from those within a Talent job on the Talent Studio. The next step might be being able to figure out how we can integrate with the auto machine learning piece of it, maybe BP?
Absolutely. I think this is part of a journey that we've just started on. Deployment was one of the biggest pain points, as Jeff highlighted, so we wanted to start at that note. But as the two platforms, help across the data spectrum in our organization, there are many opportunities for us to work together. You saw today how we can use the API management tier from Talent. The data catalog and other offerings from Talent are something that we'll be looking into next year. But absolutely, with the open source background and the power we bring in terms of users and use cases, I think we can jointly bring a lot of good solutions to the table here.
Absolutely.
All right. Another quick question: can RapidMiner be integrated with other data visualization tools, Power BI, to represent data and use its own visualization? So the short answer is yes. We can work with not just Power BI, but Tableau, Click, and a bunch of other platforms. I think the answer is same also for our Talent counterparts. So both of these platforms very well work with visualization platforms, but we also have our inbuilt visualization layer, if that is what you wish to work with. But again, visualization is key part of the whole data story. We work with all the major players out there.
All right. Next question is, can Talent access data via source APIs, or is it limited to existing libraries or connectors? So we're very extensible, and that's where our open source and extensibility comes in our heritage and our background with Talent. So it's very easy to, especially with APIs, to call APIs within a Talent process and retrieve the data in many different formats, whether it's JSON or Avro, Parquet, whatever it is that the data is coming back from the APIs. We also have a very extendable library and toolkit to build components. If you need to build a custom, or you want to build a custom component and have it work within the Talent platform, which is exactly how the RapidMiner component was built with BP. So again, very extendable, open source capabilities within Talent to give you that ability to connect to things that we may not provide out of the box. So.
Okay. I guess I'll take the next one here, which probably applies to both RapidMiner and Talent, though the question was focused on RapidMiner. The question is, what is the max size of data RapidMiner can handle, and what's the best set of configuration to handle big data volumes? So the short answer is, both RapidMiner and Talent, I think we've been designed from day one to solve enterprise needs. RapidMiner Studio, which is where you saw me using AutoModel today, leverages the computing power of not just your laptop, but also you can offload things to the server, as you saw. But also, as things start going beyond the scale of a traditional server, the platform, RapidMiner platform, can work with your Hadoop infrastructure and so on. So basically, the scaling is a factor of designing the right workflows and using the right sort of infrastructure behind the scenes. But definitely, scaling is not a big concern. We have customers using RapidMiner on terabytes and petabytes of data on a very, very regular basis. I assume the answer is the same for Talent, but Mark, I'll let you add to it.
Yeah, definitely. So very similar concept. So if we can definitely process data at huge volumes and huge scales because we are native to the environment that you're running on. So if you do start getting into massive terabytes and petabytes and things like that, you definitely want to switch over to some type of Hadoop or Spark environment and do the processing in a Spark type environment where you can then scale even further out. And our processes that you develop with Talent just run natively within the Spark clusters and don't depend or rely on anything from Talent once you submit it to the Yarn cluster or to, for example, Databricks, the serverless Spark cluster, and it auto scales for you. So definitely, it's a design pattern. and we definitely have customers going after huge amounts of data and processing with Talent as well. So very much the same answer.
Excellent. I think one more for me here before I give it back to Mark. Are all of models available in RapidMiner compared to R or Python? So the short answer is yes. RapidMiner has been built with Java as a backend, and it's a scalable platform. Overall, the platform has 200 plus algorithms and support for deep learning frameworks like Keras and TensorFlow and DL4J. However, the beauty of the platform is, again, we integrate very well with R, Python, and other languages of choice out there. So you definitely are not limited to the algorithms that we provide, but you can actually expand the palette using R or Python as you wish. Hopefully that answers your question. Thank you.
All right, so another question, looks like it might be the last Talent one for now, but can Talent work with on-premise environments in terms of performance, meaning on-premise, network, cloud, Talent cloud? So we absolutely can work in on-premise environments. We can work in an on-premise mode, both with Talent Cloud if you don't want to use the Talent Cloud environment, or the control and the manage and subscription from Talent Cloud. We do have a on-premise version, but our cloud environment does work in a hybrid mode as well, where you can have both Talent Cloud as well as on-premise, where the agent, the engine that would be running the processes, whether that's on your Spark clusters or just on a Java type processing framework, can run all inside of your on-premise hardware and networks, or even in a cloud VPC environment, so that the data never leaves your environment and stays within your private networks as well. The performance, again, just like the last comment about performance, it all depends on what is the workload and where do you want to process. And if it's a huge amount of workload, you may want to think about using a Spark platform or a Hadoop platform for something like that as well. But it really comes down to what is the task that you're doing and how do you want to process it. So.
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, I think I'll take
Mark and BP, you've got another question, BP?
I think this is the last one we can answer for now. The question is, some of you have seen RapidMiner also, and now seeing Talent. The question is, both platforms seem to do data preparation and so on. What's the difference, and how can you use the two tools? So I think to quickly differentiate, Talent is obviously the enterprise workhorse for big load ETLs. As you noticed in today's webinars, Mark was moving data from a transactional system and putting it into a destination that was useful for machine learning. At some point, RapidMiner will be used for some off data prep work, but again, that is the last mile data prep work. I might be doing things like dummy coding. I might be doing things like setting up rules for handling missing values. So those are very specific to some of the machine learning related data preparations. So there is a little bit of overlap there, but I think the key differentiator is your workhorse, your heavy ETL workload. Talent is best suited for is. RapidMiner is more, again, downstream project-based ETL. And obviously, we are great at building models and making them available. And Talent will be the workhorse back to putting it into a deployed enterprise application.
Yeah, definitely. And we as it says, we do have a data preparation tool, as well as data stewardship and data governance with a catalog. So really our suite of our platform, our data fabric, as we call it, really gives customers the ability to have the full life cycle of data governance. And that does include data preparation, being able to give users that know the data, that aren't as technical, the ability to go into a tool such as our data preparation tool and do the modifications and format and fix data the way they need to, but then take that and integrate it back into that pipeline that I showed you. So we can take our full data preparation tools and what we call recipes that a business user may do on the data and embed that into a full pipeline, automate it so that every time the data gets pushed out to, say, RapidMiner, it's going to have those preparations done on the data the way the business user needs them going into the machine learning process for the data scientist. But it is part of the overall platform and integration and speed and trust of your data within your enterprise with data management and talent. So. All right.
Mark and DP, are there more questions to cover, or are we finishing up here?
I think we've covered most of them from what I can
see.
I don't know if DP is here.
There are a few questions which obviously we cannot answer in a public forum like this, but again, we'll get back to you on that. But I think we are covered with questions that we could cover in a public forum here.
All right, great. Well, thank you guys. You know, if we didn't answer your questions today, we'll endeavor to do that via an email here in the next several business days. But again, thank you for your questions. Just first, in wrapping up, I'd like to thank my co-presenters, Bhupendra and Mark, especially Mark from Talent. Thank you very much for your support today. I also want to thank everyone at Talent and RapidMiner that made today's event possible. And finally, I want to again shout out to the Talent and RapidMiner communities who have joined us today. Thanks for your interest. We look forward to hearing from you, and also newcomers. We look forward to bringing more innovations to market together as partners, and so look forward, there's more to come. Thanks again for attending today's webinar, Operationalizing AI with RapidMiner and Talent. We're going to adjourn now. Have a great day.